Welcome to the Movie Geeks United Oscar Series 2012. In this episode, we speak with Best Editing nominee Kevin Tent. Mr. Tent is nominated for his incredible work on Alexander Payne's film, The Descendants. This is just a snippet of our interview. You can access the remainder of our conversation with Mr. Tent, as well as our complete library of Academy Award nominee interviews and additional content at moviegeeksunited.net/Oscar.
Well, I initially was totally shocked. And, people had said, oh, it might happen and you might get a nomination, but I actually was really surprised. And then it sort of has grown into being completely flattered and honored. And, when I think about my fellow editors and nominating me and being compared to the other movies and the other editors that I'm, nominated with, I'm pretty flattered and definitely honored. So it's sort of gotten to that. And then I haven't had time to get nervous yet, but I think I probably will.
Yeah. Well, what makes this movie for you particularly special? Because I've heard interviews with you, and you say that you believe that this is Mr. Payne's finest film, and you've worked with him on all of them.
Yeah, I have, and I think they're all great. I love every one of the movies that we've done together, and but this, I think, is his most. I think what I've been saying, and I think it's true. It's his most mature movie and most sophisticated, and he's getting older as a filmmaker and older as a person, not just just not an experienced filmmaker, but older as a person too, and just kind of getting a broader look at life, I think. So he's still the smart aleck he's always been, but now I think it's coming with a little bit more wisdom and maturity, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's something amazing about we think of the great creative collaborations that last the duration of a career, and the Thelma Schoonmaker is part of this Oscar series as well that we're doing.
She's amazing, and that's definitely one of the people I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm nominated with her.
Well,
which is great.
But much like you, you've stayed with this director throughout his career. Do you kind of feel like a sense of growing together on this journey?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're both. I think that when he's not making movies, I'm usually cutting with other people, so I come back to him as a sort of hopefully a better editor than when we worked together last, and and he comes back as a more mature director, and so I think we're both growing. I think our team is stronger than ever. Our team, all of his team is stronger than ever. They're all at the top of their game right now, I think, and I hope we keep getting better and better.
What do you think clicks between the two of you?
I think, I'd say it's probably similar taste. Basically just taste. I think that he has similar tastes that I have, and what we think, we generally agree on what we think works and doesn't work, and what we think is a good performance and not so good, and then we put our heads together and try to solve the problems of things that are not working. And plus, he's an extremely generous and wonderful guy. And, I don't know, we just get along really well. And I think I'm a good guy, too. I don't think, of course, no one's perfect, and I have my faults. But when we're together, I think we both get along because we're both very respectful of each other. And, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. We don't, we get along really well. So I guess I don't know exactly the answer to that question. I guess we're just kind of good friends. I guess that helps too. And and so when we go to work, it's not even like we have a good time. It's not even really work. It's work because we work hard, and there's always challenges in the movies, and those movies are particularly tricky. And this one actually was very tricky. So we work hard, but we make it fun. He makes it fun. So.
Well, part of what so defines his particular voice in filmmaking is there's tremendous humor within the drama, and it's not they're not gags, they're not self-aware punchlines, but they're kind of deeply rooted in the truth of the situation and the characters. Is that tonally, is that difficult to get right sometimes?
It is. That's a tricky thing. A lot of people, I think people see that. I know editors see that. I think that's one of the things they saw and one of the reasons they embraced the movie, because I think they know that that's really tricky to do. And The Descendants was really tricky because, it was dealing with a very serious subject matter, and those poor people, what they were going through with losing their mother, and, that you got to be sensitive to that. And I think that's where we had our biggest challenge, was making sure that it never felt like it was making fun of them or being insensitive to what they were going through, our characters. So we worked very hard to make sure that the humor that did come through felt pretty natural, and I think I'm pretty sure we accomplished that. It feels that way to me.
Oh, yeah, you did, yeah.
Yeah.
That
was our biggest challenge.
I do think it's his most emotional film.
Yeah.
And yet it is very, very funny. But I mean, the humor is so truthful that it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my parents had both passed away, and I remember when my dad actually, he had cancer, and it took a little bit of, took some time. I mean, not as bad as some people, but there were actually moments of total hilarity with my brothers and sisters, and just bizarre, surreal experience. The whole thing was a bizarre, surreal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's real life. And I think that Alexander captures real life that way, too. That's why I think the humor works, because I think people see that a lot of people have been there, and they know that these kind of things happen. So
yeah. Now, when you say that aspect of it was tricky to get right, what always fascinates me about editing is that you're so intricately involved in it. You labor over kind of every frame. You know them by heart.
Yeah.
How do you gain perspective to know that it's working?
I guess you really trust your instincts, and he's very good at smelling a rat or smelling something that doesn't work, and I think I'm pretty fine-tuned in that respect too. And I think we just keep working on it. And we screened it a lot. We had a lot of small screenings in our cutting room of 10, 12 people that we trusted. Mm-hmm. And they would be honest with us and tell us, this is working, this is not, you got to do something about this. And then we had some big screenings with real audiences, and that always really helps you out a lot too. So I guess it's a combination of all those things that we're able to keep on cutting away and keeping our perspective sort of fresh. Mm-hmm. Really, I got to say, screening for an audience is like a cold shower. That will just snap you out of anything if you're if you are in love with your movie and you watch it with an audience. They don't always tell you exactly what's not working, but they'll tell you if it's not working. So.
Well, were there painful cuts that you found that you had to make? Or?
That's funny you say that. I don't suffer very much pain when cutting things out. Alexander suffers more than I do. So there were things that he, in all his movies, that he is really, there are things that are hard for him to let go of. And for me, usually I move on. If something's cut out and it was hard to cut out, I get over it. Not that I don't think it should go back in later or something like that. As the movie evolves, but I'm trying to think of the Descendants if there was anything that was really painful. There were experiences that were painful to get to where we got to, but in the end, it wasn't painful to lose certain things. But there were sections of the movie that we worked really hard at trying to figure out, for pace reasons and stuff, how to get from here to there. There were a couple places where we really labored long over them, but I wouldn't say that was painful. That was just work. So.
Well, it's probably painful for him in some of these cases because he remembers the labor he went through on the day to get a particular moment.
Yes. It's so funny. I've been working on his tribute reel because he's going to be the filmmaker of the year for ACE this year. So, and I've just been going through all our movies, and just so many things that I just remembered, like, oh my God, he had such a hard time losing this. It's been pretty funny. Especially in election. We lost some things in election that he still complains about.
Well, election seems. I mean, from the viewer's standpoint, election is a perfect movie. I mean, that's great.
Well, it was really fun to just watch it again. I just watched it the other day again. Oh my God, it's so funny, and there's so many great shots, and Jim Glenn and the DP did such a good job. I mean, really amazing. And but we had a tough one on that one. That was a tough one where we cut the heck out of that thing. So all that time editing we spent is a good thing for it.
Another question I want to ask about the Descendants involves the narration. Tell me about that process. Is there always more narration recorded than is needed, or did you find that you had to go back and record more to fill in some holes, or how did that work?
We did go back and we did fill in some holes. We did record with George, I think twice. But yeah, there was a lot more narration in the script originally. In fact, the narration went all the way through the movie, and we wound up just kind of dumping it, and nobody ever complained. I always thought someone was going to say, "Hey, you started with narration, then it just goes away," but no one ever did, which was good. But yeah, we reworked the narration in the beginning a whole lot. That was actually tricky in the Descendants. There's a good example of something that was kind of challenging. As we're, how do you tell that whole family backstory and all that setup without spending, a whole other movie doing it? Speaking of the Descendants, the actual family, the Descendants, the King family. So we did do a lot of tweaking of it, and then this was kind of interesting. We got a few studio notes, and a couple of people thought that they weren't quite sure what the relationship was between George and his wife and why he was angry at her and stuff like that. And Alexander, being such a good writer, went back and just very lightly tweaked the voiceover in the very beginning of the movie, and it's just when the push-in on George is happening, and they changed the voiceover. And George says, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but he basically says, "Wake up, Elizabeth, please wake up. I'm ready to be a husband again, a father," And that really helped a lot, because then the audience totally understood what had happened to their marriage, and it was a small change, but it made a big, big difference in how people perceived George and his marriage.
It's amazing that just like the slightest tweak can.
It really was.
I hear that from editors too. I mean, you cut frames or a minute from a film, and it changes the pace of the whole thing. It's mysterious.
It is. It's so great. That's a great thing about editing. It's just so. It's amazing how that happens. I'm always amazed myself, and I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm amazed when you see a bunch of small changes add up to big changes in a movie. It's really something.
Do you find that at a certain point that the movie kind of tells you what it needs to be, and your job is to just be open enough to hear that message?
Yep, absolutely. And especially Alexander's movies, I think, because his movies are kind of unique in how and what they're trying to say and what they're doing, and the Descendants was definitely that way. At first, I was I was really worried about the pace. This is just me personally. Alexander is a pretty cool cucumber, but I was always like, and it doesn't follow a traditional structure. It kind of meanders around, and I was concerned about it, but then I eventually wound up just embracing it and going with it, and it works great. And then, so yes, you definitely, and this movie